Hello! Welcome back to my channel, Authentically Yours Patricia, or if you're new here, my channel is Authentically Yours Patricia, and the premise of this channel is to build a community with those of us who are currently navigating and sometimes struggling through our backstory, and just me taking one for the team, so to speak, where I'm willing to be transparent on social media with how things are really going in my life, right? So I'd like to build a community. So if this relates to you or resonates with you rather, please leave comments and please subscribe so we can join a community to encourage one another, build one another up, and help us get through this one side of our life to get to the other side. Now, let's jump into today's video. So to recap on the last video of how the heck did I get here, that was a part one, so to speak, of just bringing up my childhood and, being that I'm first generation American and, not learning anything about budgeting and debt was the norm and things of that nature. My parents did the best they could with what they knew, but we never talked about budgeting in the home. We didn't talk about financing in the home. Actually, I remember a lot of times my mom kind of like condoning my behaviors. One time I was reprimanded. I remember I was like working retail. This is like, I don't know, my early teens or whenever you could work. I think like 15 and a half or whatever it was back then. But I got like a $200 paycheck, which was big, back then, and you're 15. And I spent the whole thing on a pair of sneakers because I was a sneakerhead, right? Still kind of am, but I had to like lay low for several years because the finances and all that. But back then that wasn't stopping me. So I bought these $200 sneakers, Diadora. Drop a comment if you remember those sneakers, Diadora. So that's dating me. That's way back. I don't even know if they still have those. But anyway, I paid $200. That was pretty much my entire check. And my mom had me go return the sneakers. I was so devastated. So I'm bringing that up to say that was like one of the only times I remember being reprimanded for spending a lot of money. And the second time was when they had like these hotlines for like celebrities. It probably really wasn't that celebrity that was on the other end, but when you're young, you don't know. So I spent, I think, again, around $200 calling this hotline for a young celebrity back then. And I was reprimanded for that. But I'm bringing those two examples up to say those were the only two times that I can remember being reprimanded for poor spending. I kind of feel like my mom condoned it a little bit. My dad was in the house with us, but he wasn't really a present father. He didn't really participate in the things of our childhood and raising the kids and all that. He provided, financially. We always had a roof over our head. We always had our bills paid, but he didn't participate in that way. And if you see the part one of my video, you'll understand why. But all that to say, I wasn't reprimanded about finances. So I'm carrying along in my younger days of just spending and not really thinking it through, not thinking about savings. Debt was a norm in our little network, right? And then now, let's say you're in your latter days, not me, in my latter days of high school, and now they're talking about credit cards and they're talking about financial aid for college. My parents didn't have a savings for our college fund. And when I look back, like if I could do it all over again, I wouldn't have even gone to college. I did so poorly in high school. I would study as hard as I can, busting my brain, and I would get a C minus, a D. Where my sister would just look at a book. She wouldn't even open it. Look at a book and get an A, right? So I did so poorly in high school. And then I went to college because back then, that's what you're taught. Like entrepreneurialism wasn't really the buzzword like it is now. Tech wasn't a thing like it is now. And because my parents were immigrants and education was such a big deal for my mom, and rightfully so, right? Because they came from their countries and they were successful in their countries, and then having to come to USA to give us a better life or themselves a better life, and then having to kind of do the reverse, right? And my mom cleaning houses and having 3 jobs, all these different things. And it's like, man, you were a professional in your country, but when you come to USA, it's not regarded for some reason. So anyway, that's that. But all that to say, trying to, now go to undergraduate, that was the thing for us to do, because the narrative was, you get an undergraduate degree, then, oh my gosh, yes, you're going to get an amazing corporate job that pays you an amazing amount of money, and you're going to be set for life, right? That's what we were trained. At least I was, right? That's the little network that I was in. Not everybody grew up this way, but that's how I grew up. So we didn't have a savings for college, took financial aid, and the reasons for going to college, I wish I never went, because I did struggle. I was in academic warning almost the whole way through for my undergrad. My undergrad was in criminal justice, and the only reason why I went that route is because my family members kept saying, you love to argue, you love to argue. And if you listen to the first part 1 of how the heck did I get here, you know that I love justice, right? And the different things that happened in my upbringing. So I was like, yeah, I love to argue. Yes, yes, yes. I'm going to go be a lawyer and work my way up to being a judge. And nothing's wrong with that, but it didn't work out for me. I struggled the whole way through and then racked up debt. I didn't have the knowledge like I have now of, okay, if I'm going to make X amount of dollars when I graduate with this degree, then I should go to a school that's, $30,000 because I'm going to make $60,000, whatever that is, right? I didn't know all those things back then like I'm hearing right now. So, man, it's like, so I racked up all this debt for undergrad. And then years passed on, the same thing. I racked up debt for graduate school. We'll get into that probably another time. But again, didn't use that same metric of, I'll get this amount of money with this degree, so I should go to a school that costs this much. Did not have that knowledge. Wish I did, right? So these are like some of the financial mistakes that I've made. And again, because that was the norm, that's what I saw growing up, wasn't really getting reprimanded for spending habits. And I remember one time when I finally got a car. When did I get my car? I think it was early 2000s when I got my first car. Got my license at 18, but my first car, I think, was early 2000s or late 1999, whatever, I don't know, around there. But all I have to say, I remember there were a couple of times where I would spend, and then couldn't afford my car payment. But then my mom would jump in and pay, right? And that was not helping me. I know she thought she was helping me, and I was thankful. But as far as like teaching me financial literacy and discipline and, what should have happened is repercussions for what I did, but that's not what happened. So now that's like my early adult years, and that's how I'm living life, right? Just spend impulsively or recklessly, not thinking about the things that are a necessity, right? So that's the early years. And it's embarrassing to bring this up, but that's the whole premise of this channel, is I'm taking one for the team. I don't mind sharing this, being authentic. So to say this is the background, but then now we're working towards getting out of this kind of situation and mindset, right? Mindset has to change in order for behaviors to change. So this carries on for years. This is the trend for years, racking up debt, paying it down, getting rid of debt. There was one point where student loans was the only debt, and I was like, woohoo, I'm finally doing this. But then other life circumstances happen, take on more debt and things of that nature, right? So then now I'm in a situation where it's like, whoa, it's unbelievable, astronomical. A big bulk of it is student loan. Some of it is part of our small business. Like I was saying in one of my first videos, we have a small mobile dog grooming business here in our small town. We had to get a van to start the business and then renovate the van to make it a mobile grooming, right? So some of it is that, right? But still, the same thing. It's like, not changing behaviors because mindset is not changed yet, or just getting the education that's needed. So that's where we're at. So today I want to really stress upon, for those of us in this predicament, right? And again, this channel is going to be all encompassing. It's going to be relational. It's going to be about health, a lot of different things. But for this particular video and for a lot of others, it's going to be about finances. So what I really want to encourage us to do, and like I said before, I want to end videos with progress notes. And what I want to encourage is to leave comments down below about the progresses that you're making in your current backstory as well. Because the goal is for us to get out of it, right? We don't want to stay in this predicament. God put us here, right? And we have gifts and talents and abilities to offer the world. There's things that only I can offer the world, and there's things that only you can offer the world, right? There's your sphere of influence and there's my sphere of influence. There's people that you're going to meet that the Oprah Winfreys of the world or the Tony Robbins of the world will never meet. There's people that only you are going to meet, that only you are going to influence, right? And the same with me, right? We have a lot to offer. We're not here by happenstance, right? God skillfully, purposefully, intentionally designed us, right? And deposited in us all these talents and gifts and abilities to offer to the world, right? It's not just those special people out there. You are special. You are special. You have something to offer, as do I, right? So again, what I want to encourage is putting your comments below about some progress steps that you're making in your backstory. So one thing I want to stress upon as far as progress notes for me is getting help. Getting help. Throughout the years, I've tried different financial programs to help. I'm not going to name the different ones because I'm not here to diss any program or any person. That's not what I want to do at all. But what I want to stress for you and for me is find the one that fits you, because the ones that I tried out in the past, they used to beat me over the head, and I would feel so condemned and so ashamed. And I remember one person I was just talking to recently, and just sharing about my upbringing and how I didn't know much about financial, intelligence, if you will, right? And the person was like, it's just common sense. It's just common sense. And I just kept stressing to the person that, well, I wasn't raised this way. My parents didn't share these things with me because they didn't know it. Or if they did know it, they didn't know how to share it with me, right? So the person just kept going on and on. This is just common sense. And what I'm bringing that up to say, it's get help, but also pray about and be discerning about who you're getting the help from. Because for so many years throughout my journey, I tried the different programs and the different counselors just beating me over the head and making me feel horrible because I didn't know something or because I couldn't stick with it, right? So then I got to the point where I was like, well, forget it. Forget it. I'm just gonna, and then people would throw on you, do a spreadsheet, I'm like, and then I tried, I'm like, this isn't working. I need a system that works for me, right? That's tailor fit for me. And in this particular season of my life, in addition to the mobile dog grooming, because it has been so brutally slow, and that's also a reason as to why there's a big struggle financially for us right now, I have these other gigs that I'm working on. And so I'm looking online and I'm not seeing anyone talking how to manage gig money. And for those of you who don't understand, gig money, and even with the mobile dog grooming business, you get paid daily. You can get $500 in a day, right? Or don't get anything for 3 days or a week, right? So it's most of these financial gurus and budget gurus are talking to an audience that gets a paycheck every 15, every 30 of the month, every 1st, every 15 of the month. And that's not my situation. And I just couldn't find the help that I needed up until recently. I finally found someone, and I want to encourage you, if you're in a situation like this, or even if you just need help in general, get a daily money manager. I stepped out in faith with the little funds that we currently have, and I have hired a daily money manager. And you heard it right. That's her title, a daily money manager. She has all those like letters behind her name for her credentials that she is, what do you call that? When somebody knows what they're doing, qualified. So yeah, she is qualified, and I love her. I adore her. She knows my story. She listened. She has compassion. She understands it. She left her corporate situation also and is also doing different gigs in her life. And she has been incredible. Incredible. So I just want to encourage you. That's one of the daily progress notes for today is get help. Get help where needed, because sometimes we just can't do it alone. And then the other thing I want to say, be open to where the help is coming from. Be open to where the help is coming from, because sometimes it's going to come from a place where you wouldn't have expected, So I would encourage you to share with trusted people what you're going through, because the tendency is when we're in these situations where we're struggling financially, struggling to make our bills, make our rent, cars on the verge of repossession like every month, all these different things are happening. The tendency is to pretend. The tendency is to just keep faking the funk. And I get it. Faith it till you make it. I understand that. And there is power in that, but there's also power in being honest. And there's also power in being real so that we can get the help that we need, right? So that's the progress note I wanted to make, that I hired a daily money manager. And in the next video, I'll share some details about what I'm learning with that. But I'm just so thankful to come on here to encourage another person. I'm thankful for everyone who sent me private messages, who've said, this is so needed. Thank you for starting this channel. I can so relate. I just encourage you to leave comments down below, because there are other people who are going through this and they're afraid to, put their stuff out there. And I understand that. I completely do. So this is just to encourage someone today to get help where needed. Again, today we're talking about finances, but just before we end, this is about our whole life. So in relationships, right? In our health, in any area where you're suffering and struggling, don't go at it alone. There is help. There is help. And that's what I wanted to leave off for today. All right. Thank you for tuning in. Authentically yours, Patricia. Mwah.